You never want to point a gun at the Phantom. You should look at the Boss Fight Studio Hero Hacks highly articulated character kit system, the Phantom the Ghost Who Walks blue costume. On a number of adventures, various phantoms have encountered the Little People and their leader, Prince Vlad. The Little People first arrived on Earth in the distant past when their spaceship crashed, leaving them stranded. For much of their presence in Bengala, they stole animals and food from humans. The eighth Phantom, in an effort to put a stop to their thievery, entered into a treaty with the Little People. The Phantom promised to aid them whenever they required it in return for their living quietly alongside humanity. The Little People are experts in training animals, especially birds, to aid them in day-to-day life. The Phantom's own falcon, Fraka, was a gift from them. We will be looking at some finer features on this slightly smaller Phantom in a moment. First, though, I'd like to thank the folks over at Boss Fight Studio that did provide this sample of the blue costume Phantom the Ghost Who Walks that we could have a look at in this review. Notably, this Phantom comes included with the Little People, and as far as I know, as of right now, I think we're allowed to say Little People. If we're not, I apologize well in advance. We are going to grab the tape measure, though, just to see how tall the figure stands. Clickety-click barba trick right at the very top of the figure's head. Now, I may have actually, at the time of looking at the purple Phantom, actually clocked this guy at being about 3.5 inches in height. The key, though, is when we do the tape measure, I got to make sure I've got it on the 0. If I have it on the 0, then accurately, you're looking at the figure being 3 3/4 or 3.75 inches in height, or the figure's roughly about 9 centimeters tall. Haven't had your fill of the Phantom yet? Good, because this is the second Phantom that we are having a look at, the first one being the purple costume Phantom that we looked at in an earlier review. You know, looking at it, though, it does almost seem as if the purple one is slightly taller, but I think it's just the fact that the legs are a little bit more closer together. Another comparison we can also make, though, not necessarily from Bengala, we can also bring in Flash Gordon, who Flash Gordon clearly is, whether I've incorrectly quoted the measurements or not. Flash, as you can see, is a lot taller because, again, he's got that blonde hair. And you know what? Why not? We can bring in Ming the Merciless. He always feels like he has to be included in these things. We'll put Ming in the back simply just because he is so tall, after all. A good roundabout characters. Nice if you are collecting that 3 3/4 inch scale. Boss Fight Studio, like I said, is knocking it out of the park with this line. Accessories, the blue Phantom comes included with the same display stand that we've looked at already before. Now, this one also is the same color of black, although it almost seems as if it's a slightly lighter shade of black. I think it's actually just my eyes. Hold on a second. My invisible eyes that represent the camera. I do think, though, did I have it the other way around? I maybe had it the other way around. It almost seems as if it is a slightly darker black than the earlier Phantom we looked at before. Again, is it? I don't know. Maybe it is. It does have the same peg points located in the same spots above the letters that easily attach onto the figure's feet. Once again, it always would be recommended to dowel first, drill in the peg into the bottoms of the boots. That way you're going to guarantee stability. Does it survive the blizzard test? It does. Blizzard test. Somebody did actually ask me what the blizzard test was. Were you just making up things in your head? I'm not. Dairy Queen, a longtime fast food company known for their blizzards and ice cream treats, used to actually take their blizzards, and after they were finished making them, they would go like this and tip them over the head of the child that had ordered it. Kids, of course, would laugh, the parents would smile, and a kid after that would get its delicious ice treat. Sooner or later, I'm sure that something had happened, or maybe it wasn't properly mixed, or the ice cream had slightly melted, and I'm sure it probably covered that poor child. The kids cried. The parents, of course, wanted their money back, and Dairy Queen had since stopped the blizzard test. That's what that was. It was just tipping this upside down over some kid's head. You got to have hoped to have been there the one time that blizzard test backfired and the ice cream went everywhere. Anyways, get sidetracked here. Going to go ahead and take the display stand off. We're just going to move it off to the side, get Phantom to stand on his own. It'd be ironic if I was to take him off the display stand and now the figure doesn't stand properly, but he does. He's okay. Figure comes also included with a couple of pistols, as was the case when we looked at the other Phantom. As far as I know, these are still M1911 pistols, his go-to firearms of choice. They are slightly, though, different. I'm going to hold this one and carefully not drop it. Slightly different than the purple variant. As you can see, the purple's pistols are slightly more of a darker kind of brushed gunmetal gray, where these are a much more polished silver. They work the same way, though, and luckily, Boss Fight already packed this figure with gripping hands, so you don't have to worry about swapping out the hands. We'll get to those. We'll get to those hands more in a second. But yeah, we're just going to go ahead and take the pistols, pop them into his palms. There we go. And you can have the Phantom with both pistols in his hand. The other thing, of course, you can always do, too, is take the guns. I know, you know where this is going. And located on the side, he's got a couple of these little holsters. Little is, well, it's slightly oversized, but at least they get the job done of holding the pistols. Again, we'll holster the one, we'll holster the other, guaranteeing that we're not going to be dropping them on the floor. They are small, after all. And we'll put the Phantom back down. The other thing, before we get down to little people, littler than the Phantom, is, of course, he comes included with his 2 punching fists. Now, you may notice that one has a skull, one does not have the skull. He has the 2 different hands. One has the evil mark, and then the other one has the good mark. Now, again, you can swap these out. Either one of the hands, by the way, the gripping hands right now, also have those same, not matching rings on his dedicated sides. But for me, I always like to display this figure, and really any one of the hero hacks up to this point. I don't think I've swapped out any of the hands. Oh, except for Ming. At one point, I did swap him out for the gestured hand. I had a little more of a tougher time at the time of his review, but eventually I switched it out to a gestured hand, and then I just ultimately switched it back anyways for all that work and all that effort. Now, on to the little people. Whether that is politically correct or not, the figure does come included with 2 of them. They're on top of, I'm guessing, pigeons. You could also say they're mourning doves, which I think is just a nicer way of saying pigeons. You can get 2 of them. One is actually a flying pigeon, and the other one is sort of more just in a sitting position. The neat thing about these is at least this one does have a little slot in all the worst places, just on the back of its behind, that you can then take this swooshing display stand, and this just slots into the back. I'm so sorry. This slots just into the back of the pigeon, like that. I don't know if I have it in all the way. It's just, oh, did I have it? No, I had it the wrong way. There we go. Slots in just like that, and then there's the peg on the back here that actually goes, making use of that, finally, that hole that was on the back of his torso. When we had a look at the other Phantom, it didn't have that option because he didn't have anything to pack on his back. There we go. And that just slots into place. That gives it a nice little look. I have to say, it does finish off a good way, first of all. It would have been nice, obviously, to come with a display stand for the little tiny bird, the one that just sits here. But there's one way to work around that too. Simply just take the Phantom and just curve his hand around. And then you just take the little tiny talons. I don't know if I guess a pigeon would still have talons. And then you can actually just wedge the talons in between the thumb and the fingers. And then at the beginning of this review, I sort of had him just looking down. I don't know if this is Prince Vlad right here, if this is actually the prince up here, but great way of displaying the figure. And the one thing about it, too, is not only is it differentiating the figure between the color schemes, but, again, just to slide this one over, making sure, of course, he's in full view of the camera and bringing in the purple one. Not only getting 2 different color variations for the Phantom, but being that this one does have, again, that little people accessories times 2. It's another way, a nice way of displaying the figure. Let's go ahead and move that Phantom out of the way. Go ahead and take these now off, and we'll put them to the side, and getting a closer look now here at Blue Phantom. Blue Phantom, for obvious reasons, looks to be the same mold as the purple one. Of course, it's just a preference of color. I would say if not for the fact he came included with the little people, I would say my favorite would be the purple one, just because I traditionally think Phantom, I always think purple. But I gotta say, like, the blue is nice too. The blue has the same molding, sure, but being that they've swapped the colors out or changed the colors out, like his belt, for example, now has gold, whereas the original Phantom had the silver little skull motif. Instead of actually having the blue trunks that we looked at before, now this Blue Phantom has red trunks. And as it goes for the rest of the bodies are exactly the same. I don't know if it's just also me, being the fact I am getting slightly older in age, but it seems as if also his mask is a slightly different shade of color. They look black, sure, but while looking at the blue, it almost seems as if it's a really, 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 really dark blue. Am I going crazy? Let me know down below in the comment section. As for certainly the rest of it, I mean, all the same legs, the same boots, same torso, of course, and the arms are all the same as well. So it's just, again, the fact that they included the additional little people is really a nice way to add a different way of displaying this figure. If you sort of were on the fence and only really had the invested interest to get the purple one, I gotta say, by like adding the little people, It does make for a nicer way to display the figure if you're just going to have them side by side. One does feel like it's a little bit then different by adding those extra little accessories that the purple one didn't have in the first place. All right. For the articulation, still thinking about the blizzard test. For the articulation on the Phantom, his head rotates all the way around. Oh, if only I could have been a fly on the wall there. Head looks down, the head looks up, and yeah, you can rock it also back and forth as well. Still a nice head sculpt on this one, just as good as the one we looked at before, using the same mold as before. Still, I think it would have been nice to have a more grimaced face, just so that this one was a little bit then even further different from the purple one we looked at before, but no complaints at all with the head sculpt. Really happy how this one turned out. Shoulders, once again, are on hinge joints, so yeah, they do come out. You do the jumping jack pose if you want to. You can take the arms, of course, rotate them all the way around. Now, I've noticed on this one at least that the joint seems very tight. Very tight. I can rotate it fine all the way around, but I noticed there's a lot of restrictions. There's something telling me you're going to have to work a little harder at this. He does have the bend at the elbow, which also allows the forearm to rotate back and forth. And yes, the Phantom also does have rotations in his hand, the same as the one we looked at before. Upper torso is on a ball joint, so yeah, you can rotate that. Well, you can rotate it all the way around, really, if you want to. Have it looking down and looking also up. Again, really tighter, surprisingly, on this figure here. Legs do split the same way as the purple variation. You can bring the legs forward and bring the legs back, and because the holsters are attached not to his sides of his legs, but instead attached to the belt, you're not going to have any limitations when it comes to moving his legs. Bring the legs forward, bring the legs back to your heart's content. 3/4 of the way up the thigh, he has a swivel cut, so you can swivel that all the way around. Figure has a double hinge on the knee. And then from basically like the knee down, it's just one single mold. Even though the boot technically looks like it would be a swiveling point, like this would have been attached in the factory, it actually, in fact, is just a continuation of the same mold of the calf. They've just painted the part that is the boot. However, though, the feet do move back and forth, and there's a nice little ankle pivot going on there as well. You know, again, even though I am a big fan of more, I think the purple Phantom, just making sure that these guys are fully in frame. Get him to stand here. As I was saying, even though I think I'm a bigger fan of the purple Phantom, just because whenever I think of like merchandise, it's always usually the purple Phantom. When we had that Billy Zane Phantom movie, who ended up watching that? Wasn't bad. Wasn't bad. Could have been better. I hope we do get another Phantom movie at some point down the road. Maybe not bringing back Billy Zane. He's a little bit old for Phantom. Even though I kind of gravitate more towards this one being my preferred Phantom of the two. I gotta say, one thing I do like about the blues, the brighter colors do make them pop a little bit more. And of course, adding those little people accessories, whether you want to call them little people or not, is a nice way, again, to differentiate one from the other. Using the same molds, yes, but when it comes to displaying the figure, you're going to have a completely different experience between the two. If it had just been the case where Boss Fight Studio had taken their purple version of Phantom and just changed its color scheme blue with the red trunks, I don't know if I would be as interested in this figure in all honesty. Not that there's anything necessarily wrong with this version of Phantom, but just traditionally based on all the merchandise and of course the movie of the Phantom, I always think of Phantom being purple. That's my own personal opinion. Yet though, by adding the little people along for tag-along accessories, now you've got a different way of displaying this figure altogether. And even though it is using the same mold, by adding a tiny little pigeon that he can fit in his one hand and having the swooshing around flying pigeon coming out from the back of his torso, now we're talking. Yes, it is using the same mold, and in many of the cases it's using still the same accessories with the closed fist and the pistols, although the pistols that come included with this one, as you can see, has a much more polished silver, unlike the dingier, darker gunmetal gray that came included with the purple one. Having these little people added, politically correct or not, somebody will have to let me know down below in the comment section. I gotta say, that does enrich the displaying options available when it comes to this figure. And without any doubt at all, when it comes to displaying the Hero Hacks Blue Phantom, he's going to be displayed with those little tiny people that are flying around him. Big thank you, though, to the folks over at Boss Fight Studio that did provide this sample of the blue Phantom that we can have a look at in this video. Let me know down below in the comments section, which color of Phantom do you prefer? Do you prefer the more traditional? I always think of it the traditional Phantom in purple, or do you kind of like the blue color scheme on Phantom a little bit more? Let me know down below in the comments section. If you liked this video, why not hit it with a like? If you're loving the content and certainly want to stick around for more, you can certainly hit that subscribe button down below. You can certainly as well turn on the bell notification, and you can certainly as well come back to this channel regularly. And popping up as well at the very end of this video will be a playlist of other Boss Fight Studio reviews that I've done over the years. If you guys want to go back and see some of the other things that the company has been making in the smaller scale formats, check out that playlist that'll be popping up at the very end of this video. We are going to be looking at more Boss Fight Studio hero hacks reviews, so make sure you guys are keeping your peepers peeled to this channel. And as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.